Dear friends, this chapter is just a simple elaboration of the lesson water, which you have already learned in your 6th standard. So, let's begin the chapter by recollecting some important things we studied previously. You are very well aware about the importance of water, right? In our planet, though 71% of Earth is covered by water bodies such as oceans, lakes, ponds, etc. Most of this water cannot be used by living creatures due to the presence of salts. A very small portion of water is available for us to meet our demands. It's our responsibility to properly utilize this precious resource without even wasting a single drop. If we continue to use water in silly manner, soon we will run out of water. In order to make people conscious about the necessity to conserve this limited availability of water, we celebrate 22nd March as the World's Water Day. Year 2003 was observed as the International Year of Fresh Water to make people aware of this dwindling natural resource. Let's now see how the equilibrium of water is maintained in our planet. There comes the role of water cycle. Do you remember the water cycle? We will go through water cycle once again now. Before moving on to water cycle, you need to revise the forms of water. Water exists in 3 forms: solid state in the form of ice and snow, liquid state present in oceans, ponds, lakes, underground, gaseous state present as vapor in the air. The continuous cycling of water among its 3 forms, namely solid, liquid and gas, is called the water cycle. It keeps the total amount of water on the earth constant even when the whole world is using it. Several processes play a role in maintaining the water cycle, such as evaporation, condensation, precipitation and so on. Next is, have you heard of groundwater? The rain that showers, snow in the mountains that melts, water in the rivers, lakes, etc. All these finally fall into a sea or an ocean, but not at all the water flows into sea or ocean. Some of the water flows into the ground and is available to us in the form of groundwater, which we use our purposes. The moisture in the soil indicates the presence of water underground. If we dig deeper and deeper, we would reach a level where all the space between particles of soil and gaps between rocks are filled with water. The upper limit of this layer is called the water table. There are places where groundwater is stored between layers of hard rock below the water table known as aquifer. Open wells. Many lakes have this groundwater as their source. Tube well or hand pumps are used to draw this groundwater. In areas covered with concrete, there is no soil, hence water cannot be infiltrated into the ground. The process of seeping of water into the ground is called infiltration. If there is no infiltration, the groundwater is wasted. There is another case wherein if there is no vegetation, the rainwater flows away so quickly that it takes away the upper layer of soil along with it. These 2 conditions affect the availability of groundwater. What are the reasons for the depletion of water table? There are several reasons, mainly due to the increasing number of industries, increasing population, scanty rainfall, deforestation, depletion due to excessive use of irrigation for agricultural activities. As the population and number of industries is increasing day by day and the need of water is also increasing drastically. When the population increases, the need for construction of buildings also increases, which requires enormous quantities of water. The other thing to be noted in the construction of buildings is that concrete buildings do not allow the water to seep into the water, which we call the groundwater. Hence, we are using a large amount of water by constructing buildings and blockings the way of seeping groundwater too. The amount of water available in the earth now is not sufficient enough to meet the demands of life on earth. So, it's the need of our to conserve water efficiently. The water in the sea and oceans are not suitable for consumption as we learned earlier in this chapter. So, it's our duty to preserve the water which is available and suitable to meet our demands. Now, how can we conserve water? In our country, water is supplied by well-planned pipe system. In certain public places, there are taps which people can use. First thing to do is conserve water from your side. For example, turn off pipe while brushing. Mop the floor instead of washing. Other ways of conserving water is rainwater harvesting. It is the process of collecting rainwater and storing it for later use. Rainwater is the purest if collected properly. There are two techniques of rainwater harvesting. One is rooftop rainwater harvesting, in which the rainwater is collected from the rooftop to a storage tank through pipes. If the rainwater touches the roof, it contains dirt. So, filtration before consumption is required. The pipes used for collecting rainwater can go directly into a pit in the ground, which replenishes the availability of groundwater. Another technique is to allow water to go into the ground directly from the roadside drains other than using tanks. During ancient times, people used to collect water and store in reservoirs, and this system of water collection is called boring. Another technique called drip irrigation. It is a technique of watering plants by making use of narrow tubings which deliver water directly at the base of the plant. What happens if it rains heavily and what so if doesn't rain at all? Both these conditions are in a way dangerous. If it rains heavily, the flood occurs. Flood washes out the crops, forests, villages, domestic animals, property and even people die. Heavy rain also causes a rise in the level of water in rivers, ponds and lakes. The other condition in which if it doesn't rain at all causes droughts. The water available in the earth is being lost by evaporation and transpiration and is not getting back to the earth. The soil becomes dry and affects the crops, hence scarcity of food for humans and fodder for animals. What happens when the plants doesn't get enough water? The green character of the earth shall be lost. This may mean the end of all life. For a world without plants shall mean no food, no oxygen, not enough rain. Total equilibrium will be lost. From this you might have understood a little more about the importance of conserving water. Now, friends, the time is reached to wind up our chapter. So, let's recall what we have learned in this chapter. First point, forms of water and water cycle, groundwater and water table, reasons for the depletion of groundwater, then methods to conserve water. Now, students, let's see some important questions in this chapter. Here, you have to find out the answer. First question, what is the importance of the year 2003 in accordance with conservation of water? Which day is celebrated as World's Water Day and why is it celebrated? Second question, explain water cycle. Third question, what are the methods to conserve water? Fourth question, what is water table and how is it depleted these days? Fifth question, what happens if it doesn't rain at all? Does it affect plants? If so, how? Sixth question, what do you mean by aquifer? Last question, does concrete floor allow infiltration of groundwater and what happens then? Okay friends, I hope all of you enjoyed this lesson. We will reach you on the next video. Bye.